Couple follow-up videos talking about differences between the body weight version of exercises from their weighted counterparts. Push-ups and bench press are first. The first thing to recognize about the difference between push-ups and bench press is that we've got twice as many mobile joints with a push-up as we do with the bench press. When we bench, our scaps are pretty much locked in place on the actual pad of the bench, and our wrists remain fairly still and locked. When we do a push-up, our scapular is moving, so we're protracted at the top, retracted at the bottom, and we have flexion and extension at the wrist, in addition to the humeral joint moving, which is the same for both moves, and the elbow joint moving, which is the same for both moves. So we have twice as many joints we've got to think about moving versus the bench press, which is primarily humeral and elbow joint. Speaking of the elbow joint and placement on the body, with the bench press, we typically have a much wider hand and arm position, where the hands are wider than shoulder width and the elbows wing out to at least some degree, usually about 45 degrees. Some people vary in how they practice this naturally. Some are way out, some are closer in, but there's usually a much wider stance, if you will, with the hands than with the push-up. Now, it's fine to do push-ups like this as well, but as you get more advanced in your training, you'll come closer with both your hands and your arms to the point where your hands are underneath your chest and your elbows are in very tight. Typically, I find people refer to a narrow bench press as about shoulder width. So this is not always, but often a narrow grip bench press. For push-ups, we're gonna wanna go even closer than that. One of the other big differences is forearm placement. Now, when we press against a weight, kettlebells or barbell, whatever, we typically keep our forearms vertical, so the wrist is stacked over the elbow. With the push-up, allow your elbow to break back so your forearm angles backwards. This allows you to make more use of the joint motion in the wrist and also keep your shoulders back. When the forearm is more vertical, the shoulders have a tendency to hunch up and forward, thereby sending less tension into your chest and putting more stress on the wrists. So allow the elbow to break back so that you can avoid those things. Also, when it comes to your hand and your wrist, typically with a bench press, we're grabbing onto the bar or we're using kind of a palm grip, but in either case, we're using a little bit more of the flexors in the hand when we handle the bar. With a push-up, our hand is more open, flat on the floor. So what I recommend doing is having a little bit more tension in the extensors in the forearm and pulling upwards just a little bit to send some of the tension along the backside of the wrist, and that will help to balance it out and have less stress on the wrist as well. And then lastly, to consider, where's the supportive tension? With the bench press, we're lying down and we have a little bit more tension in the backside of the body. So hamstrings, glutes, spinal erectors. One power lifter I used to know used to actually bridge himself into a bench press position before he lifted the bar off the rack. With push-ups, it's the opposite, of course. We want our abs tight, our hips, our quads, and the muscles in the shin. Now, naturally, both exercises, you want some supportive tension in both the posterior and anterior chain, but you're gonna flip it a little bit with the push-up. However, do keep tension in your hamstrings and your glutes as well to give your body some more rigidity and stiffness. So those are some of the major considerations from one to the other. In the next video, we'll be talking about squat differences. Questions below. Be fit, live free.